Hey everybody, it's GobletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'm going to be playing a premiere draft of Phyrexia, All Will Be One. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. Alright, here we are with a pretty easy pack 1 pick 1. Miglaw's Maze Crusher is just an absurd rate in Limited and Draft and Sealed. 3 mana for a 4/4 that comes with 5 oil counters you can use to give it Vigilance and Menace, or +2/+2, or destroy an artifact or enchantment. Just a super absurd card, incredibly hard to block it well. Even if your opponent blocks with like 6 power and toughness, you always have that threat of just activating its +2/+2 twice. So super hard to deal with during combat. Your opponent pretty much just needs removal for this card. Otherwise, you're getting an absurdly large creature that is going to beat them down and kill them quickly. So pretty easy Miglaws here. There's solid uncommons like Charforge and Tainted Observer, but they are nowhere near as good as this rare. And none of the mono-colored cards are super sweet in this pack. Blightbelly Rat has been pretty solid for toxic strategies. Annihilating Glare is a fine piece of removal, but not taking either of those over Miglaws. Pack 1, pick 2 now. We do have an Oil Gorger Troll, which is one of the best commons for the oil strategies. And we could be moving into green-red oil here. There's a Cinderslash Ravager as well, which is a solid uncommon for the strategy. You do want to have multiple cards on board with oil counters on them to make this like a 4 mana 5/5 Vigilance, or at worst, a 5 mana 5/5 Vigilance. But we do already have one nice oiled up creature. So those are the two main options to go with Miglaws here, so they're probably what we're going to take. I think I might take Oil Gorger Troll first. Honestly, I'm not incredibly impressed by Cinderslash Ravager without cost reductions going for it. And it's more likely to wheel than the Oil Gorger Troll. Although if I take it here, then we're making sure nobody else is getting a red-green signal, and we're probably holding on to Miglaws for dear life. I don't know, I guess I'll go Cinderslash Ravager here. Make sure that nobody's getting a very clear green-red signal coming up, because our rare is powerful enough to just try to stick to this 2-color strategy pretty heavily. Speaking of cards that are really nice for our 2-color strategy, we have Kuldotha Cackler. This is 2 in a red for a 2/3 trample. Whenever it attacks, it gets +X/+0, where X is the number of permanents you control with oil counters on them. So a very aggressive, just creature for an oil strategy. Very solid pickup for us. There's one of the weaker removal spells, one of the more expensive and slow removal spells here, Molten Rebuke, which I won't take over Cackler, but would be interesting in the future. We're just going to take Cackler here and move on. We've got Contagious Vorak now, probably green's best common. 3 mana for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal a land from among them, put it into your hand, and if you don't, you can Proliferate. So super good for green-red oil. A 3 mana 3/3 that hits your next land to help you move up the curve, get to your late game cards like Cinderslash Ravager, is a sweet 2-for-1. And Proliferating can be valuable in the archetype as well. So we'll take Vorak. We love to wield the Skull Bomb or the Engraver, or even Unnatural Restoration. Those would all be fine additions. So Contagious Vorak will be the pick there. Now we have a Furnace Strider, which is great at the top end of the curve in these decks. 5 mana for a 4/5 that comes into play with 2 oil counters on it. You can use those oil counters to give something haste until end of turn, including targeting itself. So 5 mana 4/5 haste that gives your next creature haste as well is the worst case scenario on this card, and that's pretty dang good at the top end of the curve. So I'll take Furnace Strider. We're low enough on cards I don't think we'll wheel Cackler or Sprinter, which are both also decent additions to this kind of deck, but I'm not in love with the Sprinter. I find that just repeatedly recasting the same creature, even if it is getting oil counters, it's not the most efficient use of your mana, so I don't love Sprinter. Cackler versus Strider is a little difficult, but Strider's just incredible at the top end. Make sure I have at least one of those. We've got an Axiom Engraver, which is quite nice here. Again, just upping the amount of permanents we control with oil counters on them is pretty good. So this card doesn't have to do all that much for it to make the cut. And being able to filter away some lands later in the game with that discard and draw ability is pretty decent. So I think I'll go Engraver here. There's also Prophetic Prism if I want to be open to splashing, which is definitely a pretty solid pickup for any deck. But I don't know, I feel like I'm getting pretty committed here to just red-green stuff. Take Engraver here. And we are in one of the few color pairs that doesn't really need to take Prophetic Prism style fixing, because if we do end up splashing, because we're in green, we can pick up some of the green fixing cards like Thirsting Roots, and there's an uncommon that taps for mana of any color. I guess the common creature just untaps lands you control, so that doesn't actually help you fix. But there's Thirsting Roots and there's that uncommon. I don't think I'm taking Thirsting Roots here. I think I'm taking Sylvok Battle Chair. This is just an absurd card to have at the end of your curve. It's basically a 6-mana 6/6 trample, and then you have the ability to just for 7 mana move the equipment to another creature. Make any of your creatures a gigantic trampling game-ending threat. So really good at the end of the curve. I do like Hunter Maze a lot, but I also really love Predation Steward on turn 2 for oil decks. 2 mana 2/2 with 2 oil counters that can then give you that little buff during combat later for 3. I really like Predation Steward on curve in these decks, so I'm going to take it over Hunter Maze. We're not going to use Maze's Mantle because we don't have any toxic cards, so this doesn't also give hexproof. And we're not going to use Chimney Rabble because we're not really trying to sacrifice any goblins or anything, not getting much value from the token that card makes. I guess I'll take Maze's Mantle over the Rabble, but we'll put it in the sideboard for now, and now we'll take the Chimney Rabble and put it in the sideboard. Molten Rebuke I will play for now because I don't have any removal yet, but ideally we can pick up some more efficient, some cheaper removal spells. And we'll scoop up all the nonsense that gets passed late in the packs. And we are moving on to pack 2, pick 1. Some very solid cards here. Unfortunately, Atraxa is not a place to go. We're definitely in red, so we don't really get to play Atraxa unless we're 5 color. So, feels a little unlikely here. We do have Evolving Adaptive, which is great on turn 1, which is not super replaceable. There's a good amount of, solid 4, 5, 6 mana cards. When it comes to just great 1 mana cards for this archetype, there's not a ton, so we do want to take them highly. So I think I'm going to take Evolving Adaptive over Furnace Strider and Predation Steward here. Just get a nice solid 1-drop in the deck. This just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the game progresses, and of course fits our oil counter theme very well. Pack 2, pick 2, we now have an Armored Scrap Gorger, which is main deck mana fixing. It's also mana ramp, and it's a card that's going to have oil counters on it, so just fits a lot of different themes very well. We'll be picking that up, seeing if we can wheel a Predation Steward. It's kind of the only other card we want in the pack. Pack 2, pick 3, we have some pretty good options here. I'm relatively low on removal, so Ruthless Predation would be pretty solid. We also have Free From Flesh, which is kind of a sick combat trick in an oil deck, because you get a combat trick to win the fight, and then you also get some oil counters for value. Really, really good on cards like Evolving Adaptive, because it just gives it +4/+4 at instant speed, because it gives it those 2 additional poison counters, or oil counters that give it +1/+1 per counter. But there's also just Furnace Punisher, which is a 3 mana 3/3 menace, which is just beef. Just scary beef. I think I'm going to play it safe here and just make sure I have some more removal, so I'll take Predation here, but I would love to wheel Free From Flesh as probably the most likely. Skull Bomb's also decent. I don't think we'll wheel Furnace Punisher, but if we do, I will play it. Alright, take more removal here. This is a removal spell I'm much happier to take because it's instant speed, I don't have to fight with a creature, and it proliferates. This is a premium removal spell, whereas the Ruthless Predation is just a fine removal spell. So we will take Volt Charge here. Again, other really solid pickups that we might be able to get later would be the Hunter Maze, the Furnace Punisher, the Free From Flesh. Those would be the best additions. Rustvine Cultivator also actually quite good for this archetype, again for ramping into our late game plays and leaving a permanent with oil counters on the board. But Forge Hammer Centurion is the least exciting of all the oil counter stuff in the pack. Another Ruthless Predation is solid. Also Thirsting Roots are Free From Flesh. Don't think I'm going to splash in a Charforger, but it is a fine card. Got one way to splash right now, just an Armored Scrap Gorger. How's our creature count looking? Good amount of 2s, we've got a 1, good amount of 3s, then a bunch of beef. We're doing pretty good on creature versus non-creature count right now if we just keep this up. Yeah, I like how things are going. We'll take Ruthless Predation. I have heard that Hazardous Blast plays a lot better than it looks. There's a lot of just early aggro toxic decks with plenty 1 toughness creatures, so this often does actually kill 1 or 2 cards while shutting off blocks. I don't know if I'm ready yet to play it, but the other options are a Sky Scythe and Golfer, which won't make the cut because we have better 6-drops. Or like a Long Legs that I don't think makes the cut either, so we'll take a Hazardous Blast, and I might try it out. I've heard some hype around the card. Shrapnel Slinger's fine, gives us main deck artifact removal. We can also just take Prophetic Prism. Be more open to splashing in a Charforger or something. Again, I haven't been incredibly impressed by the Sprinter, because you have to just keep replaying it. I'm just going to take the Shrapnel Slinger here. It's a main deck artifact removal. 2 mana, 2/2 on curve is whatever, but it gives you that flexibility where if your opponent plays a good artifact, all of a sudden, now you have a removal spell in your deck for it, if you draw into it at the right time. Take a Volshock Splitter. Card is just fine. 4 mana, 4/2, leaves behind an equipment. Another Axiom Engraver is nice, but there's also another Furnace Strider. Hard choice between those two. Those are both great here. I'm going to go for the Furnace Strider. Copy number 2. I don't like Nahiri's Sacrifice. Fine out of the sideboard against like white and blue with their aura-based removal. We can't sideboard here. I guess I'm probably not playing Aspirant, but it feels more likely than the Sacrifice. We did wield a Skull Bomb, but that's it. Oh, there we go. Wield a Free From Flesh there. Take that. And another Free From Flesh. Okay. Great combat trick for our deck. Pack 3, pick 1 now. What do we have? We have our first copy of Oil Gorger Troll, but I do have double Furnace Strider at 5 mana. Second Predation Steward is nice. Unnatural Restoration and Magmatic Sprinter are fine, and the Monumental Facade, pretty fun land. It does make us play a colorless land though, which can mess up our mana base. But we get to move some oil counters around with this, which is useful. Probably worth playing the colorless land for that. Especially if I had like a Prophetic Prism. Yeah. I don't know, I'm going to take the Monumental Facade here. It's probably worth it. Even though it doesn't give us green or red mana. Just having a nice little bank of oil counters to move around a little bit is interesting. Well, this is a pretty awful pack. There's good black and white, but that's about it. Anoint with Affliction's great, Annex Sentry's great, Fencing Raptor's great. I guess I could play Gleeful Demolition as main deck artifact removal. Blow up opposing artifacts, or we blow up one of our own to get 3/1/1s. I guess we don't have enough artifacts to run it, really. Yeah. The idea behind this is with expendable artifacts like Prophetic Prism or 4 Mirrodin equipment spells, you get that flexibility where you can just make 3/1/1s of your own or blow up an opposing artifact. Can't really do that though. Got a Hunter Maze versus Axiom Engraver. How many 2-drops do I got here? 4 of them. Little bit low, but not low enough to, I think, take Engraver over Hunter Maze this time because we have 0 of those. And I really like having these lands to help us mitigate flood, make sure we're not flooding out. Incubation Sac is really good if the game goes long. Being able to produce at least 3 3/3s off of just 1 card. That's if you never proliferate. If you do, the card's really absurd. We only have 1 way to proliferate in the deck, but again, 3 3/3s off 1 card is still really nice. I'm going to go Incubation Sac over the Barbed Batterfist. Batterfist, though, another pretty sweet card. Giving you an equipment and a 2/2 for 2 mana. Oof. Contagious Vorak versus Predation Steward versus Prophetic Prism versus Unnatural Restoration. Bunch of great stuff, but I'm just going to take the Contagious Vorak. Card is just so good on curve. Another Sawblade Scamp here. Still feel like I'm not using Blade Graph. Yeah, just another card that maybe has some oil. Doesn't do a ton, but it might get some oil counters. Ping a little bit in the early game. It's a synergy piece. Spore Singer would be fine, but again, I've got a lot of 3s going on already. I think I'm doing good there. Definitely take another Predation Steward over a 3rd Furnace Strider. Another 2-drop on curve with oil counters. Another Sawblade Scamp, Maze's Mantle, and Tyrnak's Atrocity. I'm not in love with any of these for this deck, but I guess I'll take another Sawblade Scamp. Another Predation Steward, an Unnatural Restoration, or Carnivorous Canopy. I guess I will take my first Unnatural Restoration here. I think it could be decent in this deck. Proliferating an oil counter onto all of our stuff and maybe picking up an important creature like Miglaws. If not, maybe trading off or picking up something that traded off early like a Contagious Vorak, being able to do its enter the battlefield effect as well. Could be valuable. Bunch of nonsense. And we got some green-red oil going on here. Ooh, nice late Predation Steward. I'll definitely play that. Probably over these Sawblade Scamps. Just play the triple Steward. Got some very oily stuff going on. Unfortunately, I did not manage to pick up any of the Oil Gorger Trolls. Those were scooped up highly by the draft pod. I think we saw 2 Oil Gorger Trolls, and I think they were both in our pick ones. It's like we didn't pick one them over anything, and then we just didn't see them again. It's awkward. Those would have been solid additions here. Yeah, I'd like to try out the Hazardous Blast here. Again, I'm not confident that it's great, but I've heard some good things about it from other limited players on Twitter, other drafters, that it's actually been pretty solid. So we'll try it out here. We are very early in the format, so we're going to be trying out all the stuff at least a little bit before I write it off and never play it. I don't love Shrapnel Slinger in here or the Sawblade Scamps because we have plenty of other creatures now. Well, 16 creatures is not that many. 17 with Sylvok Battle Chair. Yeah, I can cut like 2 creatures. I'll cut one of the Scamps and a Slinger here. Got 2 non-creature cards. 14, 15 creatures. We've got an Incubation Sac. Probably going to drop the Skull Bomb and one of these Free from Fleshes. Seems good to me. Yep, trying a little bit of everything here. Trying out some new stuff in the format. Feels like where we want to be. Don't have that many cards that care about the number of cards with oil counters on them, but our Kuldotha Cackler should be very big, and our Cinderslash Ravager should be able to get cast for pretty cheap, so those 2 cards are getting pretty big buffs from all of our oil stuff, so that's nice. Good amount of removal here, Volt Charge, Double Predation. Yeah, I like the deck. I think that's how we're going to cut it. 14 green cards, 11 red. We're sitting at an 8-8 split. No double red cards. I'm going to drop a mountain, add a forest. We'll go 7-9 for the splits and call it a deck. Alright, here we have a look at the deck we're going to be playing today. This is a green-red monsters deck. It's got a lot of oil counter synergies, but for the most part we are just curving out with some beef on curve. We've got a potential Evolving Adaptive turn 1 getting bigger as the game progresses. Triple Predation Steward on turn 2. Armored Scrap Gorger as well to maybe ramp us up a bit early. Tons of 3-mana 3/3s like Contagious Vorak that are 2-for-1s that pull out a land from our deck when we play them. And 3-mana 4/4s like Miglaws and Kuldotha Cackler, probably attacking very large with the amount of oiled up permanents we have. And then for late game plays, a couple Furnace Striders to haste in for a bunch of damage, and a Cinderslash Ravager that with all of these oil counter cards can be cast for super cheap. So some pretty nasty stuff at the top end and just beefy stuff at the early game as well. So just really big creatures, hopefully trying to outclass our opponent's creatures in size. Outside of that, we have plenty early game interaction to make sure we survive the more aggressive decks in the format, the more toxic decks. Couple Ruthless Predations, Volt Charge, and Hazardous Blast. This is one I'm a little unsure about, but I've heard that it plays well in the format, so I'm going to be trying it out for myself at least one time, seeing how it works out for us. We've also got some nice longevity with incubation sacs, spitting out 3/3/3s over time, being a nice 3-for-1 in that way, and unnatural restoration to return our best permanent that has been defeated early in the game. Hopefully, potentially, even Miglaw's Maze Crusher themselves. So that is the deck we're going to be playing today. Without further ado, let's head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are, turn 1 with an, well... Alright, here we are in game 1. Our opponent is on the play. We've got an evolving adaptive into an engraver so that the adaptive will be a 1-mana 2/2. A lot of late game stuff that we can't afford yet, but the Cinder/Slash Ravager is actually only going to cost 3 mana because we're going to have an adaptive, an engraver, and an incubation sac on the board with an oil counter on them. So if we hit 1 land, we can cast everything but Sylvok Battleshare. And then ideally, whatever we're drawing that isn't lands will just be more spells to play in the meantime until we make it to that Battleshare mana, so I think the hand is pretty great here. Surgical Spellbomb from our opponent's going to be very annoying for our evolving adaptive. That means it's going to get bigger, but then they'll just make it smaller again 1 time. They can only bounce it the 1 time, so I still think I need to just curve out and play the engraver here. Beat in for 2. But I think I'm not going to make the adaptive any bigger after this, if I have the option not to. Just let them bounce it the 1 time, remove 1 oil counter from it. So the Surgical Spellbomb, of course, lets them put something back in my hand and they draw a card. They're just going to exile it. Well, that sucks for our Cinder/Slash Ravager. That's actually pretty unfortunate. Would have much rather they bounced it than anointed it. See what else they have here. Ambulatory Edifice. Alright, well that's not going to kill anything. Just a 3/2 on the board. Does beat our engraver pretty handedly. Play Incubation Sac, and then I can play Ravager next turn, or use the sac to make a 3/3, either way. Can't Unnatural Restoration here because they exiled my card. Yep, this is the only play I can make. I could discard a card, draw a card, and see if that changes my line. Probably should have, because I'm not blocking Edifice. I guess I'll do it now. I do have 1 1-mana red card in this deck. Well, I don't know if there's anything I want to discard, because if I discard this land and don't draw another, that's going to be bad. Actually, I just don't think I'm discarding anything right now. If this were draw a card, discard a card, we'd probably use it here. Maybe we discard Unnatural Restoration, but I've got some pretty big permanents to bring back if this game goes just a little bit longer. Alright, they're going to send in the Edifice. We're going to take 3 damage. Tamiyo's Logbook, that's going to cost 1 million mana. Actually, they have 3 artifacts on board. They have 2 other artifacts, though. So, a blue and 4. A blue and 3. 4 mana total. Yeah, they can start just using that every turn. That's not going to be ideal. Alright, I think I'm just going to cast Ravager when I know I can. And then we'll start using the sac. Could Volt Charge the Edifice here. Make it so they have to spend 5 mana to use Logbook, but if they're spending 4 mana to use Logbook, they won't have the mana up to use anything else anyway. Already. Send in the Engraver, because it's not blocking. Nor am I discarding any of these. Bilious Skull Dweller from our opponent to get a Toxic Creature to kill our Ravager. A little sad to see the 1/1 after we've played the Ravager that can kill 1/1s, but we can still just Volt Charge it. Doesn't feel great Volt Charging a 1/1, but when it's a 1/1 with Death Touch, I think that's just where we're at. Skull Bomb is a sorcery speed ability, so they can't bounce their creature in response to this. Okay. I'm going to send in both here, because Ravager has Vigilance, so I can hold it up on blocks, and I would be pretty okay with just trading a Free from Flesh for the Edifice here. Just to get it off the board and out of the way, for Engraver to get damage in every other turn. And so they have nothing to trade into my first 3/3. No permanents in the grave for the Unnatural Restoration still, so probably time that we start using our Incubation Sac. They are down an artifact now, so Logbook costing 5 mana is pretty big. There's a Bone Picker Scourge, but we are completely uncorrupted, so just a 2/2 flyer. Pretty fine with that. We are 1 forest away from playing Sylvok Battle Chair, which is pretty sweet. So I don't think I'm discarding this mountain to Engraver when it gets us so close to the Ravager. If I draw another mountain, though, I'll discard that, because I need the 2nd forest rather than the 5th mountain. They get to Skull Bomb one of our 3/3s, but we get 3 more off of this Incubation Sac, so there is no reason not to start using it here. We just give them 1 Skull Bomb of value. It's going to take most of their mana to do it. They're still on 4 mana here. So even just soaking up their mana to stop them from advancing the board state is a decent use of Incubation Sac. Nimrazor Paladin, that's not great for us. They get a 4/4 and they return a creature from the grave to hand, so they get their Death Toucher back. It's pretty big. Pretty big indeed. Probably going to let Ravager in again, because if they don't let Ravager in again, it means we kill their 4/4 and all our 3/3s get to start attacking in. Right, they go for a double block for the trade. I'd be super absurdly happy with the trade if they do decide to do that. Double block with a 2/2 and a 4/4. Because then Ravager's in grave and we get to pick it up with Restoration and kill their 1/1 when we play it. That would be phenomenal. Alright, yeah, they're just going to take the 5. Let's put them down to 4 life, so if we just go wide here, we're doing pretty good. I like Predation Steward because it can buff up our other creatures and make them big enough to attack into the 4/4. But I feel like Sylvok Battleshare is like more of a win con to move towards, so we might just go for another 3/3 here, have the Battleshare at the ready. I guess I have the Battleshare at the ready either way. Yeah, we'll play the Steward. Over the sack, still just trying to make it to Sylvok Battle Chair. If I hit a forest next turn, I can attack with Ravager. They trade the Death Toucher into it. I can Restoration and recast Ravager. But it might be better to just play Battle Chair if we hit a forest next turn. Probably is. Opponents in blue-black, I doubt they have removal for equipment. And even if they kill the creature that it's equipped to, as soon as we hit 1 more land after we have our double green, we can start moving this around, and this is big enough on almost any of our creatures to just kill them in 1 swing. Battle Chair definitely going to be serving its purpose as a game ender, as a win condition. Okay, so they are going to kill our 3/3 and probably play the Skull Dweller here. Sure will. Alright, forest. Mountain. Alright, I'm discarding that immediately, searching for the forest. There it is. Drop the Battle Chair pass. And now their Skull Bomb is gone, so they can't bounce our 2/2 Rebel that's got +4/+4 in trample. Our 6/6 trampling Rebel. Sheoldred the Apocalypse. Hello. Welcome. All of the Phyrexian Praetors from recent sets are in this format, even if they're not in the set, like Sheoldred from Dominar United, so that is going to change things a lot in a very bad way for us. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to kill Sheoldred right now, so we have to just draw. Alright, they're going to be gaining 2 life every turn. Can use Steward to make this 9/9 trample. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They have to block with a lot. Ravager for Skull Dweller. I could get Ravager to kill something else with Restoration, so I think I'm attacking with the Trampling Rebel and the Ravager here. And I'm going to Restoration recast Ravager and see if that can fix things math-wise to kill any more creatures. Okay, the double block there, the single block there. Alright, fair enough. I'm not going to be able to kill any extra cards. Recasting the Ravager, but that's still going to be the play here, I believe. Suppose I could go wide instead, make a 3/3 and a Scrap Gorger, and then just keep putting the chair onto things if I hit one more land. But it's probably just make a 5/5 Vigilance again. Yeah, 3/3 and a 0/3 versus 5/5 Vigilance. Yeah, we go 5/5 Vigilance here. Okay. Opponent goes up to 6 life. They have a Dross Pits to activate as well, which they can sacrifice to draw a card. That's their non-basic land up there. So they're essentially at 8 life. They also have the Logbook, but that will require 6 mana to use that, because they have no other artifacts on the board. So that's probably not the play. Yeah, Atmosphere Surgeon, hold up the Dross Pits ability to draw a card. Essentially at 8 life here. They have no way to kill Ravager without losing Sheoldred, so we're probably just trying to put the Battle Share on the Ravager. Hoping for land off the top. Are we hoping badly enough to discard Scrap Gorger to draw a card and take 4 instead of just 2? Kind of think we are. Yeah, I think we need a land bad enough to just use Engraver here and take another damage. Alright. Find the land. Take 4 damage here. Battle Chair the Ravager. They have 9 toughness exactly for a 9 power creature. Hopefully the last card in their hand is not removal. So it kind of feels like they have to block with Sheoldred here. Alright, block with Sheoldred. This offer immortality for indestructibility? Or are we dealing with the Praetor? Alright, we're dealing with the Praetor. Sheoldred is dead, putting them down to 2 life now. There's definitely graveyard recursion in this format, though. They didn't sack the Dross Pits in response, which could either mean they want that mana to use Logbook more often, or they have an instant they were considering using instead of sacrificing the Dross Pits to draw a card. Okay, now they are just going to sack the Dross Pits. So I guess they just missed out on 2 points of life gain But it was probably because they had some other option and they couldn't decide yet which to do. So they're at 2 life, facing off against the Sylvok Battle Chair. And 4 3/3s with our incubation sac. Over time. Send in an atmosphere surgeon. No, whatever trick you got, go for it. Whisper of the Dross. Sure. Drain us 2 life with the aspirant. They're back up to 4. And mesmerizing dose on the steward. Proliferate again, drain us 2 more life with the scheming aspirant. It's not great, but I can play a 2/3 and a 3/3 here, so I can block everything. Well, Surgeon can actually give their whole board flying. Oh my god, and there's the Skull Bomb to pick up Sheoldred. There's a Miglaws, though. Miglaws instead of Cackler here. It's pretty big. Miglaws can't get haste, though. I could Miglaws and just blow up the Skull Bomb so they can't pick up Sheoldred. Is that what I need to do here? They can use Atmosphere Surgeon to give both their creatures flying. Flying, hit for 3, I'm down to 4. But if they just Skull Bomb the Sheoldred back to their hand, they can't afford to cast her. Because the Skull Bomb takes 3 mana. They have 2 mana left. Yeah, I think I'm just playing both these creatures and just planning to kill them next attack with Miglaws. I do outrace them with these 2. So they can do 3 damage to us here, put us to 4. But then they put a Sheoldred in their hand and then we kill them on the crackback. And we'll see, they did draw another card here for turn, so they've got one final chance to draw an out, but with all the information that we had, this play does give definite lethal. Alright, and they did not draw into an out. That is going to be 1-0 to start it off. Here we are on the play in game number 2. We've got Contagious Vorak to pull a land out. Could help us find the red source for Miglaws and Cinder Slash. We've got that Predation for early removal alongside the Vorak as well. So I will keep. See how things go from here. Mountain from our opponent and a turn 1 Sawblade Scamp. It is going to get nice and aggressive with a hasting 1-drop. See what they've got for us turn 2. Hopefully they don't curve out with 1 mana creature, 2 mana creature, 3 mana creature. Well, they're looking over their hand. They've got something they could do this turn. And they are going to do it. Barbed Batterfist plays very well into our Contagious Vorak with its 3 power. It can attack into the Vorak easily. Alright, we've got to pick up that mountain here. Well, we are getting aggroed pretty hard. I think I need to leave this on board for Predation and Free from Flesh to be able to get used as removal. Okay. I can Predation, hold up Free from Flesh, and cast Incubation Sac here, or I just play a Miglaws and hold up nothing. I could play Miglaws plus Sac, I guess. Ooh, wait, no, yeah, that's the play here. Miglaws Sac opens up Ravager next turn easily. Whichever one of these dies. And then Ravager just clears the whole board. All these 1 toughness cards. Thrill of Possibility, discard a card, draw 2. That, of course, putting a counter on the Sawblade Scamp, so that can keep shooting me for 1. Oh, I was hoping that'd be a 1 toughness card. I would have been super happy with that, but that's okay. We'll just get the classic 3 for 1 off of Cinder/Slash Ravager here. Yeah, we just do it right now. And then I'm attacking. This immediately flips the board state, where now we are the very big aggressor, and our opponent is falling behind. Excellent stuff from Cinder/Ravager there. And I really like this hand for stopping them from, like, recovering from this. Double Predation for their next blockers. Keep this board nice and clear for us. There's a Chimney Rabble, which spits out a 1/1 that doesn't matter too much, but the 3/3 probably matters enough to use 1 removal spell on. Oh, especially if they're trying to still outrace us. And I feel like we definitely Predation. Although I could just play 2 blockers, I could go Scamp and a 3/3. Could also Vigilance the Miglaws and just make a 3/3. And have my 4/4 up to block still. I don't think I'm going to Predation, because I can't make a 3/3 in Predation because I have 5 mana and not 6. I do want to make a 3/3 here, so do I make a 3/3 and give Miglaws Vigilance? Do I make a 3/3 and get a Scamp to block with? Or do I get a 3/3 and hold up Free from Flesh? I think I get a 3/3 and I Vigilant my Miglaws here. That feels the safest, while still putting a ton of pressure on my opponent's life total. They're down to 6 now. With double Predation Free from Flesh, it feels like pretty much guaranteed to find lethal on our next attack. Somehow. Alright. No extra ways to chip in for damage, they're just gonna make a bunch of blockers. So Miglaws can Predation away the Sky Warden. That's first and foremost, I think. Vorak can Predation away the Rabble. And then I attack with everybody, they block Miglaws, Vorak, and take 5. That's not quite lethal. I guess I don't get lethal this turn. There was probably a way, but I don't see it here. Oh, wait, maybe... If I use Vorak to Predation Rabble, they have 2 blockers up, then I give Miglaws Vigilance Menace. If they double block Miglaws, they take 6. If they don't double block Miglaws, they take 8. So Vorak on Rabble. I think this is lethal, and if it isn't, then it's still going to be fine. I'm pretty sure they can't block this. Yeah, double block takes 7. Or single block... Oh wait, no, I'm a doofus. Single block, they take 5. Yeah, we can't lethal them there, but they can't survive without losing both their creatures. Alright, and that is still going to win us the game. There's probably a way to get lethal 1 turn faster, but the difference between lethaling your opponent immediately and forcing them to chump block with their whole squad is not that much. Not a lot of cards that could have top decked there to immediately kill us. Alright, here we are now on the play. Turn 1 Scamp, turn 2 Steward, some removal spells to keep the path clear. We'll definitely keep it. The mana's perfect as well. Got both of our colors. 3 lands total. Opponent's going to start with a Plains into a Sinew Dancer, which will be able to tap down some stuff for 4 mana, and tap stuff down for just 1 mana if they corrupt us. So I'm going to offer the trade and see if they're down for it. Just trade our 1-drops. Alright, trade our 1-drops. I'm perfectly happy with that. And we will drop a Predation Steward. Fleshless Gladiator from our opponent. If they corrupt us, that'll be able to keep coming back from the graveyard later, which is a little annoying. But for now, it can't. I'm just going to keep curving out, play the Cackler, because it can attack into the Gladiator without any support, since it has 3 toughness. And I just want to save my removal spells, probably for their toxic creatures, to keep them off of Corrupted, judging by how things have been. Although we still don't see any toxic creatures yet. Cackler attacks as a 3/3 trample. They can double block to kill it, but I kill both their creatures if they do. And then I just play Migloz post-combat. I guess if I played Migloz pre-combat, then it attacks as a 4/3. But I want to be open to these other tricks during combat. Mainly just Volt Charge. Alright, here's Migloz. Migloz could just blow up their Justiciar. That's honestly a fine play. Just remove 3 counters and blow up the 2/1. Just might as well get a 2-for-1 off Migloz guaranteed. There's a Skull Bomb for our opponent they can use to bring that Sinnoh Dancer back to their hand and draw a card. They can bring any creature from their grave back to hand and draw a card. But that would mean they're not adding anything to the board state right now. They're just picking stuff up, getting some more card advantage into their hand. And we've got a pretty dang aggressive start here, which means they're going to need to get as much on the board as quickly as possible. And yeah, they're just going to put a card in hand, so pretty great to just attack here with Free from Flesh or Volt Charge up as tricks. Probably do attack with everybody here. Threatening 10 damage. Migloz, of course, has the built-in combat tricks, so they're definitely not going to try to double block the Migloz here. So do I Free from Flesh on the Steward here? I'm honestly pretty okay with this trade, and then I could just blow up Justiciar with Migloz. That is honestly pretty fine with me. I think I'm just going to do that. Take the trade and wipe their whole board right now. Keep our removal spells for their next blockers. Pestilent Siphoner, just a 1/1. Sinnoh Dancer, just a 1/1. And they're just going to scoop them up. They're over it. Migloz is not a fun time for our opponent, but it is going to give us the W. Here we are on the play again. We've got Sawblade Scamp into a couple Vorax for turn 3 and turn 4. Perfectly happy to keep this hand. And let's just get this ball rolling. The Hunter Maze into Plains from our opponents. They've got, wow, drawn to the Migloz here. They've got green-white over there. Canker Bloom is their first play, a 2-mana 3/2. Can't Predation that with a 1/1. Do I just drop Migloz immediately, or do I start playing Vorax? Try to soak up some of the removal before I play Migloz. Yeah, I think I'm going to play Vorax here before I drop Migloz. Ooh, Monumental Facade as the land we pick up off Vorak is pretty nice. I didn't realize this could hit any land. It doesn't care about specifically basics. That's wild. Stinging Hive Master from our opponent. They're on green, white, and black. Alright. Well, I kind of want to clear out something with Predation. Vorax is going to be 5 toughness after a Predation. So if I Predation this turn, I'm not getting an attack in with the Vorak. But Predation on Cankerbloom feels fine. I guess I just keep playing creatures. Play another Vorak. Another land. Drop our facade here. Pass the turn. Don't love our trades of 3/3s for 3/2s. I will still trade into the Hive Master if they attack in to keep them off corrupted. And it will make our... Alright, there we go. We got... Happy that I sandbagged the Miglaws because we just got rid of 2 Anoint with Afflictions that would have definitely killed Miglaws. So now we get to play Miglaws Predation this turn as the play. Alright. Yep, that's definitely the line. Kill the Hive Master or the Cankerbloom? I feel like I kill the Cankerbloom and try to block the Hive Master. If they have any combat trick, it's going to make it big enough to kill Miglaws. I could just hold up the 2 mana and threaten to block as a 6/6 Miglaws. No, I'm gonna get rid of their toxic creature here. They can have a little might. Although Cankerbloom's abilities are more advantageous, but Hive Master being able to potentially corrupt us is not ideal. Unlike either of these creatures on their board. Yeah, I'm just going to try to keep them off corrupted. And hopefully we just don't draw into our good artifacts while Cankerbloom's on board. I don't think I'm blocking with my Scamp. So we'll send in the 1 damage. Ichor-Spit Basilisk, 1/3 Death Touch and Toxic. Ooh, Evolving Adaptive. Well, we can make sure we've got blockers for days. Not going to attack Miglaws into the Basilisk here. I guess if I give Vigilance... I need 1 more mana. Maybe I should have went for an attack before I played these creatures, because I could make it so they have to double block with Basilisk and Cankerbloom just by giving Menace there. There's a Viral Spawning, which they'll be able to flash back if they corrupt us. So we'll make sure they can't do that. Now they can double block Miglaws with Cankerbloom and Basilisk, or Cankerbloom and 3/3, or 3/3 and Basilisk. None of which are things I love. Could just send in Cackler and I still have a decent amount of blockers. Use Facade to make Adaptive a 3/3. Yeah, I'm fine with that. It's a pretty great attacker here. Attack is a 5/3 trample. 6/3 trample. Oh, it counts my lands too? Yeah, just permanents period with oil counters on them. Good grief. Alright, we're just going to trade with the 3/3. Fair enough. Get it out of the way. Yeah, having a 3/3 is pretty valuable here. I'm going to up the adaptive and then pass. When they have a 1/3 Death Toucher on the board, it's important to have that 3 power creature. Ichor-Spit Basilisk sending in. Trying to get us towards that corrupted. Change their mind, they play a bloated contaminator. That's a pretty big deal. 4/4 trample, toxic 1, and it proliferates when it hits us. So we definitely need them to not kill our Miglaws, or we do not have a blocker for that. Although there's a Sylvok battle chair that they can blow up with the Cankerbloom. Like, I'm happy I'm uncorrupted. I think the general idea of trying to keep them from corrupted, to keep them from hitting value spells like viral spawning was good, but Cankerbloom's ability to blow up this battle chair is really rough. Honestly, I think it's to the point we don't even cast it right now. Try to get this Cankerbloom killed somehow. Now might be the time to cash in Miglaws to kill Cankerbloom Basilisk. No blocks, dang it. Actually, really did not want that. Alright, well, I'm not playing this battle chair till I trade off with this Cankerbloom. There's one card in the format that makes me discard a card. It's a 6 mana 4/4 or 6 mana 5/5 Death Toucher. Target opponent discards a card. So maybe it would have been beneficial to hold the land just in case they have that. Basilica Shepherd, so they're pretty much definitely going to get us to Toxic now. 3 mites on the board. Unnatural Restoration. Pick up a Miglaws from grave, pick up a Battle Chair from grave. And they're at 10 life here. And eventually they have to block. Kind of want to put the counter on Miglaws now. So I'm threatening to buff Miglaws to 8/8 stats. I don't love that I can't proliferate onto that anymore, but I think I need to be able to threaten to make it an 8/8. They value Cankerbloom higher than Shepherd. That's not good for us. Good read from our opponent. Kill these two. Don't have the mana to recast Miglaws this turn because I Restoration and I only have 2 mana up. I guess I should have held Facade up. I would have been able to recast here. Also can't Restoration if I blow up one of these mites. I think it's probably better to Restoration this turn because I make Adaptive a 4/4 to trade into Contaminator by doing that. Yeah, I don't love that I tapped Facade there, because if I hadn't, I would have had the 3 mana to recast Miglaws, but if I hadn't have tapped Facade, I wouldn't have had enough oil on Miglaws to kill both their blockers if they blocked with Contaminator Shepherd, if they went 4/4/3/3, or if they blocked with, like, Contaminator and Basilisk, I could still only kill one of the two. So I think just being able to make that 8 power was maybe not necessary, but it was definitely valuable. Well, this is obviously pretty terrible. We are now contaminated, so viral spawning is active, and we're at 6 poison. Bloated Contaminator doing its thing. Can have a lot of blockers now, though. Get the Miglaws back, and I can blow up the Disruption. Not a lot of blockers, but I can have some beefy blockers now. That's what I thought. Very valuable contaminated card here. I don't have enough to blow up another artifact or enchantment. Oh wow, we're just like dead. Yeah, we're just dead on board. So that game entirely came down to our choice to blow up the Hive Master instead of the Canker Bloom. It's especially rough too, because like they very much proved to us, like the whole reason I blew up Hive Master was to focus on keeping them off of Corrupted. And like as soon as I blew it up, they like then cast a spell that has a great Corrupted ability, and they had this in their hand probably all game with an excellent Corrupted ability. So the general idea of keeping them off Corrupted was a pretty great idea, but then my opponent just protect this Canker Bloom like nobody's business for the rest of the game. And we drew into our great big artifact that they could just blow up with the Canker Bloom. So it played out really poorly, but I don't think it was that objective of a mistake there, because I think the idea that I was getting behind of trying to keep them off Corrupted was correct in the matchup. It's just that we also had to consider more heavily how many good artifacts are in their deck, and there's 2 of them. Sylvok Battle Chair and the Incubation Sack. And if we drew into either of those, Canker Bloom would basically just blank our draw for the turn, which did end up mattering a lot, because I think if we could have just slammed down a Battle Chair, we would have been in a winning position. So yeah, we probably could have won that game if I had shot the Canker Bloom instead of the Hive Master. It's like a really close threat assessment. It obviously panned out poorly for us. I think it was correct. I think it would be correct to have shot the Canker Bloom because we had the 2 really valuable artifacts, but I don't think I was massively wrong in trying to just lower their toxic creatures off the board. It was like it's like a 60-40 kind of play, and I took the 40% play, the play that's better 40% of the time. So it was the wrong line. I blew up the wrong thing. But I sort of had an okay, somewhat correct idea about just keeping them off Corrupted. Just didn't consider the destroy an artifact stuff enough. Alright, opponent is on the play. We've got an excellent curve, adaptive into Steward into Miglaws. Should be an excellent way to start the game. Opponent's going to start with a Furnace Skull Bomb and pass the turn. That is the red Skull Bomb that can put some oil counters on one of their creatures, or an artifact. They're on red-white. Red-white tends to be an equipment-heavy deck. All those 4 Mirrodin spells allowing them to get an equipment and a creature on the board at the same time. They're just going to cycle through this Skull Bomb, play Basilica Skull Bomb as well. So they're just dirtling around getting some card draw, which is pretty good for us because we've got a very aggressive start. So if our opponent's start is nice and dirtily, should allow us to put a ton of pressure on them. Alright, they're at 3 mana now. And Bladehold War Whip is the play. That is a 2/2 double strike, basically. Got our Hazardous Blast. We'll drop our Miglaws here and attack with a 3/3, which would trade into the double striker. Miglaws, pretty good, just main deck artifact removal against this strategy. Alright, they're down to 15. Oh yeah, the Hazardous Blast does shut off all of their blockers as well, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's actually getting close to lethal. Molten Rebuke, also a great card main deck against their archetype. Blow up one of their creatures and one of their equipment. Hold up instance here. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't have any instance of my own to respond with, but I could use Miglaws' abilities. I feel like I just send in and see what they've got. I guess I could give Miglaws Menace to make sure whatever it is isn't a trick to kill Miglaws. Alright, well, too late to give it Vigilance, but I can still give it Menace. So because I'm just going to play a 3 mana spell post-combat, I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to do Menace here. Obviously, you should have done that before I moved 2 attacks. Okay. I'm cool with the trade on board. I think I'm just going to keep Miglaws' ability for later. If they use some kind of trick here, then I might blow up the whip. +3/+1. Let's see what they exile. A land? Okay, then I'll blow up the whip. We'll kill the 2/2 still. Turn it into a trade. And pass the turn, opponent is cycling their Skull Bomb. Alright, play a tap land. Prophetic Prism. Just more dirtily card draw artifacts. We love to see it. There's a Hex Gold Halberd. I can kill that creature with Predation. Also got Unnatural Restoration. Pretty spicy. Yeah, just keep the damage going here. I think we Predation plus Restoration here just to make the most of our mana. Put a little Proliferate on these things. And then next turn we'll just Hazardous Blast and find lethal, most likely. Rebel Salvo to kill Miglaws, no longer presenting lethal on board. They don't play any blockers here. Adaptive into Vorak and Proliferate is pretty good. Alright, Nahiri's Sacrifice. Ooh, that is pretty great. Sacrifice an artifact or creature. That is very good with 4 Mirrodin cards. Now I am starting to get what that's about. I was gonna say, I don't think it's great in like the red-black sack deck, but with 4 Mirrodin spells, it is excellent, actually. Choosing to Proliferate there, make both our creatures 3/3s. Yeah, that's very cool. I'm super happy to have seen that, so I can keep that in mind in the future. I don't know why it didn't click with me that Nahiri's Sacrifice is going to let you sacrifice an artifact, which is really good with the 4 Mirrodin equipment. I don't know why that didn't click. Because I already thought, like, for the red-black sack archetype, the 2 mana 3/1s that come with the equipment attached are just, like, really good. Because you can sacrifice the equipment to your cutthroat contenders and all that kind of stuff. But it didn't click to me that you can also sacrifice them to Nahiri's sacrifice, which is pretty sweet. Also, Nahiri from our opponent, pretty sweet, showing off that Nahiri is great with 4 Mirrodin equipment. Nahiri doesn't do all that much in any other deck, but the idea behind Nahiri in the format is that 0 mana ability, you can return an equipment with 4 Mirrodin from your graveyard to the battlefield. It will exile itself during the end step, but its enter the battlefield trigger gives you a 2/2, so you'll still get something out of it. That being said, it's not that consistent to have those 4 Mirrodin equipment in your graveyard, because there's not a ton of ways to sacrifice them. So I still think Nahiri's just fine. Nahiri's not like a Mega Bomb or anything. But Nahiri does have some pretty fun synergies for that archetype that our opponent had. Very smart deck from our opponent. Couple really cool things they were doing that I haven't seen yet. Of course, Nahiri's sacrifice to sacrifice the 4 Mirrodin equipment, and then Nahiri to bring back the 4 Mirrodin equipment and get the Rebel token out of it. So cool deck from our opponent, but we are just gonna aggro them out with some simple just P-Brain green-red beats. I play dudes in attack. Alright, well, it's been a long time since I haven't drawn Miglaws in the opener, which is insane. I don't have any 1 or 2 mana plays, which isn't great, but again, I've got Miglaws in the opener, so we're gonna keep and see how it goes for us. Couple predations to interact. Opponent's on green-white. Branch Blight Stalker. That's gonna be a great card to ravage later. If I play Miglaws and they attack in, I'm just not gonna block because they could have that +2/+2 draw card trick. So I think I just play Vorak so that I can just slam dunk a block here and hit the mana for Ravager. Because I need to go up this curve, I need to keep hitting mana because of how powerful Ravager is going to be against even a single 3/1. Being able to kill 1 creature when this hits the board is nice, and they might even play more. Slam dunk block. Maybe we don't get Ravager value. Complete Devotion? That's not going to work how they want it to. Alright, well, a little weird, but I guess it works out fine for us. They did draw the card, but the creatures were already going to trade, so I guess it's just cycling the Complete Devotion just cuz. That's fair. That is also not going to work how my opponent wants it to. Just always going to take the opportunity to get the 2-for-1 from Miglaws. Guaranteed. Shoot that thing down, drop a Scamp, hit for 5. There's a Scrap Gorger, that's just a blocker. Here's a big old Furnace Strider, I think. And then next turn I can haste out the Ravager, and they should be taking 1,000,000 damage here. This is just a very big example of the green-red archetype. You just play massive creatures, even without Miglaws being able to just go like 3/3, 4/5 haste, 5/5 vigilance haste after the Furnace Strider's ability is targeted on it. It's just ridiculous. There's just so much beef in this archetype, in this color pair. Porcelain Zealot from our opponent, and they're just going to scoop them up because that's a pretty aggressive card, doesn't help them too much on blocks. And that's where they're hurting there, so we are now 5 wins in. We are now in the money, leaving this draft with more gems than it costs to play in a draft. 1,600 gems and 4 packs no matter what. Very happy with this draft however it goes from now on, but we'll see if we can keep it up, maybe even head towards a final boss in a couple games. Here we are on the play. We have turn 2 Engraver, turn 3 Vorak to hit our 4th land, and then a couple Striders to top it off. Looks good to me. We have finally ended our tremendously lucky streak of drawing Miglaws in our opening hand every single game. So I guess that is the one downside of the hand, but I mean, it's still just a great hand in general for a regular game of Magic. Voidwing Hybrid from our opponent can come back from their grave every time they proliferate, and it can start hitting us for some poison with that toxic ability. That's going to be a little annoying, but we do have a Hazardous Blast to kill it, and maybe get some damage in while we do so. Oh, alright, goodbye Miglaws, and Cinder Slash Ravager, and Volt. Actually, all three of these would have been great draws. It's a little sad, but we've still got good stuff to do here. We're going to start getting poisoned here. Got nothing else to do next turn, so I might as well just blow up the Voidwing Hybrid. Worst case scenario, it forces them to dump some more mana into it, playing it later. Ooh, I might be able to kill both creatures with a post-combat Hazardous Blast. If I'm lucky. Because their options are to chump with the Seer, or bounce off the Raptor here. Or just take the 3 if they want to protect the Raptor. Alright, this is going to be great value. Oh, unless they just take the trade here. They could also do that, and then I could just Restoration Vorak, which would be fine. Go for the trade. And they're going to go for the trade here. This is also fine with me. Now, Restoration or Blast here. Restoration or Blast. I think I'm just going to blast away this hybrid. It's off the board until they proliferate, at which case, or at which time it'll go into their hands. They will have to dump 2 mana into playing it again. Alright, scry with the Glistener Seer. Scry to the bottom. Although they have Street Fighter sleeves. I didn't even know they had Street Fighter sleeves on Arena. They're going to draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, and give us a poison counter. We are 2 out of 3 to Corrupted, which means, considering they're running the Voidwing Hybrid, they definitely have ways to proliferate and get us to Corrupted at the very least. Activate all that stuff. Slam Dunk Furnace Strider time. I'm not going to use Engraver, so I will attack both just in case they do want to cash in Glistener Seer for a chump block. And I still get 1 point of damage in. But that is not the case. They're just going to get the free block and Engraver and take 4. Kuldotha Cackler is going to be a lot of damage out of nowhere for pretty cheap if our opponent doesn't kill our Furnace Striders. Because I think I'm just going to play another Furnace Strider next turn, use it to give itself the haste, and then the turn after that I could have like a ton of oil-countered permanents for Cackler to be attacking as like a 6/3. I do pick up my Vorak with Vat Emergence, and they get to double proliferate when they do that. So Voidwing Hybrid is back in their hand. We're at 4 poison now. I could go Scrap Gorge or Cackler. Give Cackler haste with Strider, but then I don't have as many oil counters. I think I just play Strider here and just attack with the creatures that are big enough to attack into Vorak. I'm probably going to discard this Scrap Gorger to draw a card, because it's just like a mana dork late in the game. It can exile a card from their grave, but they already brought back the Voidwing Hybrid and I don't have another way to kill it. Just hit for 8, put them down to 6. Alright, well this should be very scary. Excuse me, I swapped out the squeaky chair for the farting chair, if you heard that. Fleshless Gladiator, okay. It's a lot of chump blockers, but I can send in a ton of trample damage here if they don't counter my Kuldotha Cackler. They can counter it though. The common counterspell in this format, just for 2 mana counters anything if your opponent is corrupted, and I am corrupted. Ooh, Free from Flesh is another way to find lethal out of nowhere. 3 mana for Cackler, 2 mana for Restoration if I want to have an oil counter still on these Striders. But I think I'd rather hold up Free from Flesh than play Restoration immediately, and then we can just Restoration post-combat if we can't find lethal. Alright, so cross our fingers and hope they don't have the counter spell. Alright, that's rough, but we're still in a good position here. We went from immediately finding lethal this turn to just getting a bunch of damage and clearing out a lot of their board. Doing one of those two. Yeah, Restoration on Cackler seems pretty premium here, but I think I still need to hold up Free from Flesh and just go for combat first. And I can Restoration next turn. I'll have the mana to Restoration plus cast the Cackler in the same turn. Yeah, this is going to be excellent. Kill both those creatures and keep the Furnace Strider on board. Yeah, they're just scooping them up. Clear out all their board except for the Glistener Seer. Next turn we're going to Restoration Cackler and give it haste with this Strider, so this Strider will still have oil counters on it, thanks to the Proliferate. Well, thanks to the Free from Flesh and the Proliferate. So we'll have tons of oil for Cackler to be presenting a ton of trampling damage at instant speed. Well, at hasting speed, not instant speed. And hit for 1,000,000, so that's going to be another victory for us. We're now 6-1, heading into the final boss. With 2 rounds in the chamber, we've got 2 shots at getting a 7-win run this draft. See if we can get there as we head into the next round. Here we are on the play for round number 8. The mana in this hand's really rough. We need a forest, and we need it super fast. But if we hit a forest, don't know if we can lose. Turn 2 Steward, turn 3 Miglaws, Vorak after that. It's such a risky keep. 9 forests in the deck, 9 out of 30. 9 green sources in the deck, that is. 9 out of about 30, it's less than a 1 in 3 chance. Average, we have to wait like 3, 4 turns to get there. If we're lucky, we can hit it immediately. I feel like I have to mulligan. Wow, it's such a sad mull though. Yeah, I'm gonna mulligan here. This isn't that much better, unfortunately. I kind of wish I just kept the initial hand now. We do have both colors, but 2 lands total. I guess if I hit the 3rd, Vorak is going to get me all the way to whatever I need. So we'll keep. Probably have to get rid of Battle Chair, although I'll get rid of the Hazardous Blast, because I do love that Battle Chair endgame. Blast has been solid, though. I think running 1 copy is pretty fine. You know what? Yeah, we'll get rid of the 6-drop. We just can't count on drawing 4 more lands this game. We can count on drawing 1 more, thanks to Vorak. Or I guess 2 more, because as soon as I hit 1 more, then I play Vorak. Yeah, I kind of wish I just kept the initial hand, but you never know what you're going to get off the mulligan. And I think it was a very risky opening hand to keep. Yeah, this is not panning out super well. Stuck on 2 mana here still. Opponent is on blue-black Proliferate with the Scheming Aspirant that drains us for 2 life every time they proliferate. Still on 2 mana, but I have an Axiom Engraver if they can't counter it or kill it. And I can use this to try to dig for more lands. They are going to kill it with Anoint with Affliction. Another 3-drop is the draw. So we got a pass turn. Opponent's on 5 mana while we're at 2. Feels pretty bad. Opening Scrap Trap from them. 5 mana 4/4. Proliferates when it enters the battlefield and dies to drain us for 2 life with the Scheming Aspirant. There is land draw number 1. We gotta go Vorak and find another land for Incubation Sac. And the rest of the hand. There's the Drown and Ichor from our opponent to kill our 3/3. We are down to 8 life now because they drained us again when they cast that. Drop the Vorak here. And there's the counterspell. They proliferate, drain us for 2, we go down to 6. They hit for 5, we go to 1. Yeah, we're not going to win this game. Not a lot to say there, just some rough mulligans. Alright, here we are in the final game of Magic. We have Adaptive turn 1 into Engraver turn 2. So a 1 mana 2/2 into a 2 mana 1/3 that can dig for our lands. We then have Vorak when we hit the 3rd land to hit the next one. This is a 2-lander that I'm very happy to keep. Another Vorak coming up. So if we do hit the lands, we can just proliferate with these Voraks to buff the Adaptive. Playing against green-black, they're going to start with a Blightbelly Rat. We've got a Cinder/Ravager in the hand now, which could be pretty good later. Could just Predation the Rat immediately, but we've got an Axiom Engraver to block it. So we shall plan on doing that. There's a Canker Bloom from our opponent. It is pretty good against our deck. I might just blow up the Canker Bloom here. Adaptive can become a 3/4. I guess they could Whisper of the Dross to mess this up. We are on Magic Arena, which means we can see if we can get Arena to snitch on our opponent. Kind of a fact of life. I guess we can't because this is 1 mana to use. Yeah, so they could have Whispers of the Dross because Arena's going to say that they're holding something up no matter what because they have a 1 mana instant speed effect. They have Whispers of the Dross. This Predation is going to be terrible. Yeah, I guess I'm going to discard this Rebuke, draw a card, see if I can hit the land and play Vorak here. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Alright, so here's Vorak. Adaptive goes to 3/3 stats. Do I want the land that badly? Yeah, I think I still want a land. Although, Proliferating makes Adaptive a 4/4 here. They have to double block to kill it. Yeah, Proliferate's valuable enough. We're just going to go for Proliferate. They have to 2-for-1 themselves to kill this either way. They can like block and Whispers of the Dross, in which case they lose a creature and a Whispers, or they can double block, in which case they lose both creatures. This could be stranding our Ravager in hand if they do take one of these double blocks, but I'm just going to take the 2-for-1 value when I can. Alright, they're just going to take 4. There's a Necrogen Rot Priest. All of their toxic creatures now able to do an additional poison counter when they damage us. And they can give their toxic creatures Death Touch, so that's a pretty scary card, but I can Predation that away, and I only take 1 damage here. We play Scamp first to get another card with an oil counter on it. Five here. They block with both to kill it still. I think that is still okay with me. It's a little sadder now. No, it's still just a 4/4 naturally, yeah. It's not actually any bigger. Offer the Vorak for Cankerbloom trade here. See if we just get 5 in. Yeah, we just get 5 in. Vorak for Cankerbloom it is. If we draw into any of our powerful artifacts, we can actually use them. And we can play Ravager even with just 3 lands in hand here. Unless they exile the adaptive. Now we can't. But that's fine. Opponent's down to 2 cards. We've still got 3. Multiple of which could be a 2-for-1. The Vorak will definitely be. The Ravager could be. Okay. Pass the turn. There's our 4th land. We could just play Ravager here and get a 5/5 Vigilance on the board to start attacking with. Feels like our best play. I'm going to be a tiny bit sad about this if they play a 1 toughness creature next turn, but outside of that, just getting a 5/5 Vigilance on this board is powerful. No! Why'd you have to go and play a 1 toughness creature right after I played my Ravager and make me feel all bad? Well, double block with Stalker Blightbelly Rat here to kill Ravager. It's the best they've got. Still got Engraver, drawing us more cards, Vorak. Yeah, I've still got plenty of stuff here. Taking a 2-for-1 with Ravager is more than good enough. Guess I can see if I draw into a combat trick. Yeah, I probably should have engravered before combat, but I can still do it after the double block. And if I hit an instant or a combat trick, I can still do it. Volt Charge or something. Predation? That's awkward. That would have probably changed my play. Although again, just taking a 2-for-1 trade here is still perfectly solid, and we can save Predation in case they play anything scary. There are a lot of really scary cards in the format, and we started this draft game 1 playing against a Sheoldred. So, it's actually like... It's actually just reasonable to, even if I had the Predation in hand at the start of that turn, just keep it and just go for that attack there to whittle things down. Let my other creatures get in. I think that all panned out fine. Ooh, now it panned out incredibly. I've got a restoration for Ravager anyway. Sure. Did I just Predation this to hit for a bunch? I don't think I do. I think I just send in Cackler. Probably play Vorak. If I hit a land, I will take it here so I can restoration this turn. Alright. Take the land, restoration the Ravager. Oil up the board. There's a Contagious Vorak for our opponent. Vorak is just such a good card. It's actually kind of wild. Ooh. Hazardous Blast, now I can turn my brain off. You know, I'm pretty fine with 1 copy of Hazardous Blast in any aggro deck from now on. Because the turn your brain off ability is actually kind of nice. I'm just like, yeah, I don't need to figure out how to lethal here. I'll just drop this thing down. But it has killed some 1 toughness stuff, so yeah. I'm not going to be like actively seeking it out or anything, but I think I am going to start putting 1 copy in any decently aggressive red decks. And that's going to end the draft. That was a 9-game draft. We played as many games as you possibly can. That's the only reason we lost those 2 rounds, I promise. It was just to extend the draft, extend our value, get as many games as possible. No, one of those games was a very self-imposed loss, choosing not to kill the Canker Bloom. The other loss was, oh yeah, just the rough 2-land keep. That might have been a little bit of a greedy keep, but I'd already mulliganed once, so the alternative was to mull to 5, in which case still pretty unlikely to do too much, down 2 cards from the start of the game. Yeah, this was a great deck, obviously. A lot of victories off of our Bomb Rare Miglaw's Maze Crusher. That was just tremendously good. But we won some games like the last game with just some classic, just green-red beats. You just curve out with these creatures that are just very, very nicely sized for their mana costs. Evolving Adaptive was great as well. Furnace Striders are huge at the end game. Cinder/Ravager is great in the end game. Sylvok Battle Chair was excellent in the one game where we got to play it late game. But then it was really bad against the Canker Bloom, but that was, again, pretty much my fault. Incubation Sac was a bit slow, but the ability to spit out those 3/3s was still valuable. I always felt comfortable in the games where I had an Incubation Sac sitting around, for the most part. But I did find myself not activating it that much, so I don't know if it's the greatest in this deck, because it's such just an aggro curve, green-red monsters pile. But yeah, overall, pretty much everything in the deck did its job. Even Sawblade Scamp did some stuff. Even just being on the board with an oil counter on it was helpful to make Ravager cheaper. Ravager was kind of an MVP here. We were casting that for 4 mana consistently. And a 4 mana 5/5 Vigilance is already excellent, and sometimes it was even killing some cards on board. There was that one game where it like wiped the mono red deck's entire board. That was incredible. The early removal was premium. Ruthless Predations and the Volt Charge, very important cards to have. Molten Rebuke was a bit slow, and accordingly I don't think we cast it a single time, so that is again why I do prioritize the cheap removal so much higher. Even if it kills a little bit less stuff, we just didn't cast 1 copy of Molten Rebuke today. So yeah, most of the cards performed pretty great. Some big overperformers with like a Hazardous Blast that I just wanted to try out because people were mentioning it was good. And then I guess the only underperformer, the only card that I would say was probably actively bad in the deck, or I guess the 2 underperformers, but it was kind of just because of when we drew them, were Incubation Sac was a little bit slow, but it was still, we were always getting at least like 1/3/3 out of it. Molten Rebuke was the biggest underperformer, a card that we literally never cast, and then Scrap Gorger, I don't think we ever cast this either, but that's because I don't think we drew this on turn 2 very often. We just kept drawing it like turn 6 and then filtering it away, discarding it to our Axiom Engraver. So I think this is still a great card. That's not going to lower my pick order at all. We just drew it at awkward times, and kind of the same with the Incubation Sac. I think it's still pretty good, but I might value it a little less. Molten Rebuke, though, put it in as just mediocre removal to have more removal, and then didn't get cast once. It might have been better to just have another Free from Flesh, a little lower on the curve, as an option. So I know we have another copy. Yeah, just go double Free from Flesh, 0 Molten Rebuke, something like that, because we definitely would have cast that, or even the Maze Skull Bomb. Can end some games with that trampling damage, and you can always cycle it away to draw a card. Something like that, another cheaper piece of interaction over the expensive Molten Rebuke. Would have been nice in the deck. Overall, though, really happy with the deck. Cannot be unhappy with a 7-win run, and we are going to take those excellent prizes and move on. That is 2,200 gems and 6 packs. Well, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. You can catch me live at the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel like these lovely patrons you see on screen, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.